Hey guys, my name is Mike, and I don't make games. Just kidding. This is me. So today's dev lesson from someone who doesn't develop games is going to be, why do we design games? And this is a really tough one. And this isn't going to have necessarily a concrete answer, but there's a whole lot of different avenues we can go through. It's a very personal journey for everybody, I would say. And, you know, if you listen to a lot of podcasts, you read a lot of things, everyone's journey towards game development is always a little bit different. And I listened to a podcast called the Board Game Design Lab, and it's a board game podcast, obviously, and the guy talks to all these different developers, and everybody has a different story of how they started and why they started and what they wanted to see and what they want out of a game. So it's really interesting, I think. And it doesn't apply to just board or video games or game development. It can apply to any creative thing. And I've done a whole lot in my years. I'm not that old, but 30. And in those 30 years, I've done a whole bunch of different creative things, right? I've done some filmmaking, I've done some stand-up comedy, I've done some game development, I've done some writing, I've tried a whole bunch of different things. And I always come back to the question of, why do I do it? Why do I want to be like this? How much easier would it be to be a non-creative person, right? I think everyone knows those kinds of people. They get up, they go to work, they do their job, they collect money, and then they come home and watch 3-4 hours of Netflix. Maybe they go to the gym or whatever, and then they go to bed. Maybe they'll socialize on the weekends or during the week or whatever, and that's it. That's their life. And that's not a knock on them. Like, they're happier than a whole lot of creative people, right, who are stuck in creative ruts, who feel, why do I want to create things? How much easier could it be if I just wanted to watch Netflix? So let's talk about why maybe we would make some games, and why maybe I've made some games, or designed some games in the past, because I have designed a whole bunch. Never really got them off the ground, and that's what this podcast is for. You and me together creating our games. I'm making my game. You're ostensibly making your own game if you're a game designer or developer, and we'll make these together and we'll go through the processes. We'll keep each other accountable, right? So let's talk about a game that I made a little while ago. By a little while ago, I mean about 3 years ago. About 3 years ago, I made a game tentatively called Mythic. And the reason I named it Mythic is because just around that time is when World of Warcraft, the popular MMORPG, put out Mythic level rating. And all that means is that it's just a difficulty for rating. If you don't know what rating is, it's you and, say, like 19 other people on the internet fighting a dungeon or something. But, hey, if you're watching this, you probably know what a raid is. So, the game was called Mythic, and, back in the day when I played World of Warcraft, and I played on and off every single expansion, but I played launch week. I purchased the game launch week, and I played in original World of Warcraft. I remember going to Molten Core, which was the first big raid dungeon, with 40 people total, and 39 other people and myself. I remember that. There was 40 people. It was like herding cats. It was amazing. It was actually a lot of fun. It was a ton of fun to sit there and deal with 40 people and try to fight something. Imagine that. Like, you 40 people. Yeah, we're all fighting the thing. We're all fighting the big rubber ducky. How do we even do this? Oh, God, this guy's gonna die. Oh, man, he stepped in the fire and he died, but it didn't really matter because there's 40 people. And then, oh, my God, and then we somehow wipe. And you're like, how do we wipe? We had 40 goddamn people. And I found that so enjoyable and so much fun to be almost lost in that crowd. It reminded me, in a way, of when I used to work in Manhattan and I'd be on the subway. Just like, you're lost. Nobody's really paying much attention to you specifically. I was a healer, and there was a bunch of healers. There was like 8 healers or something like that. So all that responsibility didn't really fall on my shoulders, and I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed that sort of real raiding experience. We were a mob. We were, pitchfork-wielding maniacs charging into a fiery dungeon to kill monsters for loot. And I really enjoyed that concept. So I said, how can I bring this to a video game? How can I make not a video game, a board game, because I was really into board games at the time. How can I make a board game that really encapsulates how it feels to play with 39 other people? But think of right off the top of your head, you're like, that's crazy. How are you going to have 40 characters fighting something with it feeling kind of authentic? And the reality of it is that I don't know that I, fixed that problem. I came up with other fixes, and here's my book. I try to keep like a notebook for usually every individual idea. And here's You see, it cuts off right here, right? I didn't even get that much done on it, but all this stuff in, and then in the back there's this stuff too. But and this is, hey, this starts in this book starts in 2014, and ends somewhere in 2016, right? I haven't worked on it since November 2016, which was, God, that was a year ago. A year ago next month. So that's where I was at with that, and I'm like, why am I making this? I'm making this because I'm trying to rekindle some kind of experience that I had in the past. Something that made me happy, that made me content. Something that I remember fondly, and I think a lot of us might do that. We want to make games. If you really like the original Shadowrun games, you're like, man, I want to make a Shadowrun game. If you really like D&D, is that if you miss second edition D&D, you're like, man, maybe I'm going to make a second edition D&D thing that's like, but even better, things like that. Hey, the World of Warcraft miniatures game, which I think is a really good game that unfortunately hasn't been supported in like a decade. Oh my god, I loved this game. Let's make another one of those. So that's one reason we make games, because we're trying to rekindle something that we really enjoyed at one time. But there's a problem. There can be a problem. Is that we grow as people. I'm not the same person that rated Molten Core in 2000 and, God, what was it, 2004, 2005, right? That's over 10 years ago. I was a teenager. I was 18 when that happened. How much growing do you do from 18 to 22? A lot. From 22 to 25, a lot. 25 to 27, a lot. 27 to 30, not as much, but still a lot, You do a lot of growing and a lot of changing. Your priorities change. What you enjoy changes. How you socialize changes. When you socialize, how much emphasis you put on work changes. All these things change. So you might be trying to rekindle something that is not possible to rekindle. It's because it's not in a vacuum. I can't just slap 40 cards down and throw a boss down and be like, hey, that's a great idea. That's going to rekindle my feelings of raiding when I was younger in a board game way. And the idea would be that you'd play with maybe like 3 or 4 other people, and everyone would control X amount of guys and things like that. But that sort of feeling, it's what was I really getting at? What's the real reason? Why did I design, right? Like the thesis of why do we design? I was designing because I was trying to kind of get something back that I liked, and it didn't sort of work out. Why didn't it work out? Why did I stop building that game? Well, because it didn't work, and I had to keep changing it, and I had to keep changing it from its original idea. And then I got to a point where, well, you can't control 40 guys, so how about only 5? What about 5 guys? Is that okay? Okay, I guess we'll only have 5 guys. And then I'm like, man, 5 guys, that's that's burgers and fries. That's not a game. 5 guys is not going to do it. It's not going to cut it. It's not going to give the big, epic in the literal sense, feel of me storming a dungeon to some gigantic, unimaginably big boss. Right? It's crazy. And you can't rekindle that. It's impossible. That's not to say that the work I did on this game is useless. Not to say that this is worthless. This is worth a lot. This book is worth a lot. There's so many ideas in here, and you can even see in it. There's a certain page where I sort of like something really clicked, and I really like that idea. Yeah, here it is. Yeah. Wait, all this is bullshit, right? And then I'm like, this is I had a really like a paradigm shifting idea in my game. So that's useful. It's not worthless. I didn't waste my time. That wasn't a waste of time. It was just different, and I didn't get out of it what I expected when I came in. Right? Let's talk about something else. Another reason we might create things is because we want to maybe create a connection with other people. And this one's a little muddier. This one's a little weird because sometimes it's really difficult to know if we're trying to create a connection with people. You'd be like, no, I'm making this for myself, but really you want to sit down with other people and have them either talk about it, and there could be an ego part of it, and I kind of want to lump that in here too. What kind of connection are you trying to build? Are you trying to build a game that people sit down and play and have fun with, and they're smiling and laughing and having a great time? Or are you trying to build the kind of game where people turn to you and go, you're a genius. That's a brilliant game. You should make more games. I'm going to pay you a lot of money for this. Is that why you're designing? Really deep down, everyone's initial answer is probably going to be no, but if you really, really think about it, is there an ego component to your creation? And again, not just in game design. This could be for film, this could be for anything else. Like I said, I did film, I did comedy, and for those, I want to get into those in a minute, and for some of those, it was that for me. It wasn't, I didn't want to make great things. I wanted to just be praised for doing things, right? So, and here's a great distinction, and this is super, super important. It's really good to know when it's one or the other, and it's hard. Like, for me, making films, right? So, sometimes, or let's do comedy, because comedy was more of this. I didn't want to do good comedy, right? I didn't want to think of the best jokes and make a lot of people laugh. I mean, that was part of it. I did want to do that, but really, really deep down, what I truly wanted was to be a great comedian or comic, right? I wanted to be a great comic, but I didn't want to do great comedy. Do you understand the difference? Let me put that out again. I wanted to be a great comic, but I didn't care about doing great comedy. I wanted to be the thing. I wanted to be the end result. I wanted to be a great comic. I wanted to be someone that people looked at and said, oh, he's funny. Oh, he's great. You should totally go see him. You know, people would praise me or whatever. But the comedy itself, I don't care about that. You know, that'll come. Whatever. You're funny enough. And that's awful, right? That's not a good reason to do something. And you really have to catch yourself when you do those things and reevaluate why. I haven't done comedy in like 8 months because of that. Because I realized that the reason I was doing it wasn't so I don't want to say altruistic, because, you know, is any creative field properly altruistic? But, you know, the reason I was doing it was just because I wanted to be a great comic. And it didn't sit well with me. That doesn't mean that I won't ever do comedy again, but that means I'll approach it from a different angle. And something that really disheartened me, and I think the thing that really tipped me off to this with my own comedy was I was telling jokes, I was getting some laughs here and there, yeah. I'd go on really late, so there would only be like, you know, 4 or 5 people in the crowd. Wouldn't be a whole lot of people. But, you know, 2 nights in a row, I did some, not like huge, we're talking like maybe 12 people were there, which is crazy, you know? People usually don't stay that late. And I pulled a joke out twice in a row. It wasn't even a joke that I thought was funny. I just put it in because it kind of fit and I wanted to fill the space. It was some like gender assumption joke, you know? It wasn't like offensive. It was like a just kind of like a cheeky, like, you know, whatever. And I don't even think that's that funny, you know? I don't find that particularly funny, but like I said, just kind of slid it in. Everyone died. It killed. It slayed them. And I'm like, really? I tried it again the next night. It slayed. And all this other stuff that I had sat there writing and pondering over and going, oh, this is going to be funny, and I would laugh at this, and I would like this, didn't really make people die laughing. But then I tell some like topical gender joke, and it kills. You know, it was kind of sad. And a similar thing happened with my films, right? I did comedy films. That's what this Wizard Sword 2 fake cartridge is from. And I thought they were funny. I laugh when I see them. I really enjoy them. But you know what? They don't have the views to prove that other people do, right? They have a few hundred views as I showed them to my friends and stuff. But, you know, if people really, really like something, they'll share it. And this didn't really get shared. It didn't really see anything beyond me just showing my friends and stuff. And I'm like, man, I put so much effort into this and money and time. Where is my payout? And my payout, obviously, not in money. We don't want to do this for money. That would be great, but we can't. Is in some kind of praise, some kind of recognition, validation that what I did was worth my time. And it just made me sad. You know, and then I looked at that and I'm like, so why did you make that? Shouldn't you just be happy that you made it and it came out the way you wanted, and not because you just don't have the views you want, the YouTube views or whatever? That's really how it should be, and it's very difficult to get to that spot as a creator, because you create so many things, especially if you're a very creative person. You just keep creating music and writing and films and this and that and games or whatever. You do it all, and then no one seems to care. And then you look online and you see something that has 30 million views is someone just reviewing a can of soda. 30 million views to review a can of soda. Oh, I drank a can of soda. It tastes okay. Like and subscribe, you know? And then it kills you. And then it makes you wonder what's wrong with you. Are you crazy? Are they crazy? No, it's the children who are wrong. Is it like that? It's difficult. And then it makes you reevaluate why you create. Why do you want to be this person? So I don't know how it's going to manifest in you, but in me, the reason I'm sitting here today and that I'm doing this and I'm building this game and then I'm making these videos and things like that is because I did some work, and partially with a therapist, man. Like, dude, therapy isn't for people who have like serious problems only. I genuinely think everybody should probably see a counselor or a therapist at some point. It's like super, super helpful, right? And helping you pick apart these problems. And saying, why am I creative? What do I want to get out of this? And I started thinking, man, I have a deep need for what I consider to be meaningful, creative, collaborative work. Right? Those three things: meaningful, creative, and collaborative. I don't want to work alone. I'm tired of working alone. Everything I do, I work alone because I can't find people that are really interested in the things that I want. But it's more than that, though. I intentionally distance myself from those people. But I'm like, oh, his ideas are bad. I don't want to work with him. Or, oh, he's difficult to work with. Whatever. So it's easier to just push them to the side and then work alone than it is to really find people and connect with them. So that's been a problem, right? And that's maybe what I'm trying to do now. I'm building this game with a friend of mine. Hopefully we can get something out. And then also I set a realistic expectation, right? We're doing this for 2 months and it'll be done. And then I can start the next one. And that's a good idea too, to set realistic expectations when you're developing things. Especially in the beginning, right? I'm sorry, I kind of got off track, but the reason I'm kind of doing all this is because I want to work in some kind of game design or development. Game design really is what I want to do. I want to be a game designer. I'm 30 years old. I'm going to be 31 really soon. And I've gone from job to job, I've done my time. I've just kind of slacked a bit at work, I've always been kind of like a B plus student, but if I really cared, I could be an A plus. I think a lot of you are going to be like that. A lot of people are like that, right? A lot of creative people are like that. You're like, it comes naturally enough. Why am I going to put the effort in? What do I get for getting an A plus, really over a B? My parents are happier. Who cares? I'm 14, But I really want to do meaningful, collaborative, creative work. And I like video games, right? I like video games, I like board games, I like games. I like doing this kind of thing. It's fun. And I'd like people to sit down and play my game and have a good time doing that. And I think that's something that I'm growing to understand, is that connection. I want to make that connection with people, but I've spurned it for so long. So that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm designing this, right? I'll say it again: meaningful, collaborative, creative. That doesn't have to be for you, right? And I just pulled that out of myself. That's not like from a book or anything, right? Like, that's just me. That's what I recognize that I need to sort of be happy, And then, what if I did this for 8-10 hours a day instead of my current job? What if I did this instead and got paid for it? And then I came home and watched Netflix for a few hours or spent time with my family or whatever. How much greater of a life would I have than toiling at a job that I don't like and then coming home and then feeling like, oh, God, on my free time I have to work at some creative thing. That will happen, right? We are doing that now. But if we put that time in, maybe things will shift. And we don't know. Or maybe we'll all just give it up and die or something, Who knows? But that's why I'm designing, and that's why I'm designing this now. All right, I want to hear about why you guys are designing. Tell me why you design things. Let me know how you feel about the games you're building, the games that you've played, things like that. If you're building a game, I absolutely want to hear, because this is a communal thing, right? I want to hear your stuff. I'm showing you my stuff. Showed you mine, now show me yours, right? So if you like this, like and subscribe every Friday. Every Friday I record them. Hopefully I'll put them up on Friday too. I'm going to be coming out with new updates of the game I'm making and new talks like this, just talking about sort of why we do things, why companies do the things they do, and how we can apply those to our games and our philosophy in that. So thanks so much for watching, you people.